Hi, everybody. Welcome to session 2 of our Caregiver Training series. Today, we'll discuss prevention strategies for addressing challenging behavior. First, we'll review some of the information discussed in session 1, which includes concepts for understanding behavior, some functions of behavior, and how to use an ABC model to analyze. Then we'll get into prevention strategies for problem behavior, and we'll look at some videos for analysis, and then I'll show you some ways you can start planning. First, we have to remember that the behavior we're discussing today are all behaviors we can observe. We must be able to count them or time them so that we can see whether or not the behavior is increasing or decreasing. 4 key concepts to remember is that behavior can be described in 2 categories, either adaptive or maladaptive. Adaptive behaviors are the behaviors that help us be more independent and successful, and maladaptive behaviors impede on those things. Those are the problem behaviors we want to see decrease. Both these types of behaviors are learned, and all behavior is a form of communication and serves a function. There's 4 major functions to behavior. The first one is escape avoidance, so doing something to escape or avoid something you don't want. To gain attention from another person. To gain access to something desired. Or as an automatic or sensory seeking type behavior to help create a positive internal state or reduce something that doesn't feel good. We use something called an ABC model to help us understand behavior better. We look at what happens right before a behavior occurs. That's called the antecedent. Sometimes we call it a cue or a trigger to behavior. The behavior itself must be described in descriptive terms so that everyone on your child's team can understand and identify behavior the same. And then we look at the consequence, which occurs right after the target behavior. We sometimes call that the response. And these 3 things together is called a 3-term contingency, and it helps us answer questions like, when is the behavior occurring, what's actually happening, and maybe why. We use an ABC data sheet to help us analyze. The ABC data sheet here was shared in session 1. I will drop a link in the video description below so you can access this and print it for home. In this data sheet is the date. You can put the beginning and end time of the behavior, where the behavior occurred, what activity was happening, what people were involved. Then you include the antecedent, the behavior consequence, and from this information, you can hopefully hypothesize the function or the functions of the behavior. Let's look at a couple case examples of ABC data analysis. So Mr. Johnson noticed his son Robbie was having a lot of tantrums. He described tantrums as screaming, flopping to the floor, and banging his head on the ground. He took data for a week. He noticed that 10 of the 12 tantrums were happening after Robbie was told to do something, after there was a demand placed. The consequence was that Robbie was able to then postpone what was being asked of him. So he was able to postpone that demand. So dad realized that the function of the behavior was most likely to escape or avoid the demand or the request. Case example 2 is Anton, who's a preschool student, was having self-injurious head-hitting behavior. His teacher noticed through looking at the antecedent that it often happened when another child would take a toy from Anton. The consequence was that the assistant teacher would then tell the other child to give the toy back. The function was then hypothesized that Anton was head hitting to get what he wanted, that tangible function. Case example 3, Miss Miller noticed that her son Wyatt was having a lot of aggressive behavior, which she noted was hitting, kicking, or pinching another person. She saw with the antecedent, it was happening mostly in places where there were a lot of people. It was a crowded situation. The consequence was usually that he was removed from the crowded situation. It was hypothesized that Wyatt's aggression then served the function to escape or avoid the situation in which he felt uncomfortable. So today we're going to focus all on the antecedent. Prevention strategies are applied before a behavior is occurring. We also call this antecedent management of behavior. So we look at these different antecedents to identify a possible trigger or possible patterns so that we can choose the most effective prevention strategy. Today, we'll review 8 different prevention strategies that you can apply. The first one is to avoid situations or people. If you notice that there are particular triggers to problem behavior, then just simply avoiding exposure to that particular trigger will help to prevent the problem behavior from occurring. Of course, this must be particular triggers that can be avoided. Um, some examples could include avoiding places with large crowds of people, avoiding particular people that may set off particular behavior, such as a doctor in a practice. The second strategy would be to control the environment. So controlling the environment means that you're setting the environment up to prevent any access to certain items or things that might cause problem behavior, and it will also increase safety. So we all do this when we have a small baby in the house. We do something called baby proofing. That is controlling the environment. So we can continue to do that by setting up different preventative measures, such as putting locks on cabinets or keeping doors in your house locked on the inside for kids who may elope. Teachers do this when we set up our classroom environment and control the environment. We might seat kids away from others who might set them off. Keeping breakables or items we don't want our children to engage with, keeping them out of reach or out of sight. Prevention strategy 3 is doing things in small doses. We can't always just prevent or avoid particular things, right? So people can often handle or tolerate harder situations for shorter periods of time. So rather than just avoid a situation altogether, you just limit the amount of time or exposure to the particular setting or situation. Simply by exposing items or activities or situations in small doses can help people get used to them. So some examples include exposure to new foods, new clothing, new settings. Some examples include having going on shorter car trips as opposed to long ones, limiting the amount of time at a birthday party or a family gathering that may be too big or too loud. Putting smaller portions of food on a plate when you're working on tolerance to new foods, using smaller amounts of toothpaste on a toothbrush to get your child used to toothbrushing. Another strategy is to change order of events. This is really helpful for kids who have a difficult time transitioning away from things that they like to do, or for kids who are non-compliant or try to escape demands. So simply by kind of utilizing motivation in our order of events can be really effective strategy. So some examples: first eat your dinner and then you get to watch a movie. We have to know what our child wants in the moment and utilize that for motivation. So perhaps our child really wants to go to the playground, but it's time for therapy. If you can fit it in, you could say first therapy and then we get to go to the playground. If your child's engaged with the iPad and it's time to do something else that's not as fun, you can transition with a cookie. First, turn off your iPad and then I'll give you your favorite cookie. First, put on your shoes and then you can go grab a snack for the car ride if it's time to go to school. The fifth prevention strategy is responding to early signs of problem behavior. So as parents, we know some of the signs that a behavior is about to occur. So simply by addressing it in the early stages, we can prevent it from escalating, right? We just diffuse the situation as soon as possible. So some examples is a child showing agitation when getting dressed. Instead of having a full-blown tantrum, quickly jump in and provide extra assistance to complete the task. Another example is that a child starts to show signs of self-injurious behavior because they're in, say, a crowded situation that they want to escape from. Before it gets to that point, you're going to quickly remove the child from the environment that's triggering them. Number 6 is change how you ask or respond. Some of our kids really react to how demands are presented to them. Different ways to say things sometimes can be a really effective strategy. So, by providing choices, that could be give your child some sense of control, right? So, some examples could be it's time to bathe. Do you want to take a bath or a shower tonight? By providing choices when making requests or giving a child notice that who will need to stop something, giving that warning is sometimes really helpful. Like, you have 5 more minutes of iPad and then we're going to go take a bath. Oh, you have 2 more minutes of iPad and then we're going to go take a bath. Do you want to take a bath or do you want to take a shower today? Giving warnings and giving choices is very effective. Another example could be dinner time. It's time for dinner. We need to have our vegetables. Do you want broccoli or carrots tonight? Number 7 is addressing setting events. So setting events are in more like internal states. So being tired, feeling hungry, or being sick. This is usually identified because the child typically doesn't react, maybe agitated or aggressive in certain circumstances, but they are now. So we want to make sure that we address these setting events as quickly as we can. And if they can't be avoided, it's really important to communicate with your child's teacher or whatever team that you work with so that perhaps demands might need to be adjusted, right? So if your child doesn't sleep one night, make sure to tell the teacher so that she can lessen the demands throughout the school day, as to avoid a possible meltdown or other problem behavior. Some examples include missing a daily dose of medication or starting a new medication, lack of sleep, or possible changes in routines or turmoil at home or at school. Number 8 is using visuals or auditory cues. Visuals and auditory cues can include pictures, written lists, or timers. Cues serve as a reminder of something that's coming up or as a cue to complete a daily routine. They can help with preventing problem behavior because they create predictability and provide warnings and really help with increasing independence. Some examples include using a visual schedule to provide sense of predictability, or later we can work on flexibility. Cues can be used to set up choices like choice boards, first then boards, and even timers can be used for time passage or sequencing. Let's take a look at a video. This one is called Dressing Struggle. While we're watching this video, it's important to think about what are some different ways this parent could have prevented the problem behavior. What prevention strategies could be implemented here?
Come on, buddy. Got some errands to run. Come on, let's get your shoes and your coat on. Come on. Come on, let's go. Hey, come on. Listen to me. We gotta get going. Mommy's running late. Stop that, all right? Look, if I help you put your shoes on, will you put your coat on? Come on. Come on. Mommy will help you put your shoes on. Hey, come on. Hey, I gotta go. I don't have time for this now. Sit up now. Sit up now. Come on. Come on. Come on. You get your coat on, all right?
Sorry. So in this video, we saw that the child was very happily watching TV alone. And then all of a sudden, mom entered the room and said, "Put on your shoes and coat. We're leaving. Got to go run errands," right? So, whoa, this is set off a behavior, right? The child curled up into a ball on the couch, buried his head into the pillow, was totally non-compliant. Mom really keeps trying to keep that demand on, right? And it's not working. So how can we prevent this in the future? Some examples, and this is not the only, but these are some examples. So changing how she asks, right? By offering choices. One example could be, okay, she comes downstairs and she says, "Oh, you're watching TV. Okay, 1 more minute to watch. because we have to run errands. But you know what? If you want, we could ride bikes or we could take the bus to the store together, and providing choices. Okay, giving a warning and providing choices. Another option could be changing the order from first to then. So we have to go run errands. First, I want you to put your shoes and coat on, and then you can go grab your iPad to bring in the car. Okay, those are just examples. Let's take a look at video number 2.
Oh, boy, look at this mess. Hey, come on. Let's clean it up now, okay?
No.
Sweetie, we gotta clean it up now.
No.
Hey.
No.
Hey.
No.
We're gonna have dinner now.
No.
Mommy didn't make the mess.
No.
Clean up, please.
No.
Clean up the mess now. Hey. Let's go. Hey. Hey, listen to me. I want you to put the toys away now.
Okay, so here we have child was playing with toys. Again, mom entered the room and said it's time to clean up very abruptly. So some possible strategies could be to change how you ask, right? Provide warnings, change the tone of voice, tell versus ask, using contingency, pick up your toys, and then we get to go outside, right? That first then. Another option could be visual or auditory cue. So using a timer, perhaps it's, hey, you have 2 more minutes, let's set your timer, and then we're gonna go outside, right? Different things could help, but these are just examples. Let's take a look at video number 3. I want honeycombs.
Okay, bud, time for breakfast. I'm gonna have some Rice Krispies today,
No,
okay?
I want honeycombs.
No.
I want honeycombs.
No,
I
you're
want
having Rice
honeycombs.
Krispies today.
I want honeycombs. I want honeycombs.
Stop it. I said you're having Rice
I want
Krispies.
honeycombs.
No,
I
not
want
today.
honeycombs. I want honeycombs.
Oh goodness. So let's take a look at this. So the kid walked into the kitchen, and on the counter were several boxes of cereal. Maybe mom had just gone grocery shopping and she forgot to put them away, right? So she places a demand that he has to have a particular kind of cereal, but in his face are 7 choices. So, firstly, we can change how we ask, right? Instead of saying you have to have Rice Krispies, you could just ask him, hey, which one do you want? Unfortunately, she had the 7 boxes there, so he had a choice of 7. But ideally, we would like to have less choices, right? Limit the amount of choices, putting maybe 2 cereal boxes or 3 cereal boxes out and controlling that environment. If there's particular cereal that mom doesn't want him to have, they should be out of sight, in a cabinet, not as a choice. Let's look at video number 4.
Nathan, you know that you're not supposed to be in here. All right, this room is off limits. Let's go. Out. That's Daddy's computer. Let's go.
He's a sneak, right? So we're so used to that in today's age, right? Where our kids are often home and perhaps they're getting into things that they're not supposed to be. So we really need to work on controlling our environment. So perhaps putting a lock on the door to the computer room, or maybe putting a passcode or turning the computer off would be effective in this. And then also changing your response. Instead of just, no, you can't have it, perhaps you offer an alternative. So, no, you can't have the computer, but if you want, you can go use my computer. Or if you want, you can go use the iPad instead. Offering choice can be very effective. Some key factors for implementing these strategies. Remember, prevention strategies are to be implemented before the problem behavior occurs. So you really need to analyze and look at the ABC data and see what the triggers are, what the pattern is, so that you can prevent these behaviors from happening by implementing some of these strategies. When you implement the strategies, you must follow through and be consistent. You might notice that your child starts to have problem behavior at higher rates because they're just testing you and they're trying to learn the new rules. So by providing some time for your child to learn these rules will really help the prevention strategies be more effective. Don't give up right away. Remember, follow through and be consistent for a period of time before you decide whether or not you want to add more strategies or try different strategies. I will drop a link below to the Session 2 Google Drive where you can gain access to this quick tip sheet. It has the 8 preventative strategies discussed today, along with the explanation and examples. I also include in the Drive planning sheets so that you can start jotting down some of the strategies you'd like to implement or ones that you're already using. Once you start to implement, you can use this management log. Here you can add the date and the time you tried the strategy, what the target behavior is, the strategy that you used, and how well it worked or didn't work. Here's a quick example. This parent decided that they wanted to start utilizing a 5-minute warning and a picture schedule. They used this strategy on day 1, and the child had a 10-minute tantrum. They used it on day 2, and the child whined, but there was no tantrum. Day 3, same thing, whine, no tantrum. And by day 4, the child complied and had no tantrum or problem behavior. Remember, be consistent and stick with your strategies. You can use this QR code to scan. I will also drop the link below for these materials. And we'll just talk about some quick common questions. So parents often ask, will I need to use these prevention strategies forever? And the answer is no, right? So the goal is to prevent the major problem behaviors from happening, from being able to have the opportunities. And then once new behaviors are learned, then we can start to rely less on these prevention strategies. Another question is what to do when the strategies that aren't working. And as I said before, make sure that you're consistent, make sure that you follow through and stick with the strategies for a period of time. And then if they're not working, you might consider to look back at your ABC data to see what particular triggers, some other triggers that might be causing the behavior. Or if there's other patterns that you might notice so that you can choose your strategy more effectively. Or you can also add on strategies, right? So if you're using a visual schedule, you may also want to use a timer, or you may also want to use warnings. There are a variety of different strategies that you can use together. If when implementing and you need any additional support, you can reach out to me directly at my email nbarnett2@schools.nyc.gov. You can also access other caregiver training videos that I've put on my YouTube page, and you can access that here. You can scan the QR code with your phone, or you can access the link below. The session the Caregiver Training Session 3 will be focusing on using reinforcement and increasing skills and independence for your child. Please stay tuned, and I hope to see you soon, and lots of luck. Please reach out if you need support.